feel so bad Mommy's not here.
People like Mel. I feel silly telling people about Charlie Cogan when these people sitting behind me. I feel really silly. But this is the one thing, I never, when we were doing the 50th anniversary, I could not understand how one person was able to bring a bunch of educators together and get them to agree on something. We're not the easiest people to get together on certain things, are we not? But Charlie Cogan did it. He did it. And he was the one who led the strike in 1960, which would have, it'll be 53 years ago this Thursday coming up. And I can't even imagine how tough it was in the discussions with all the different educator-teacher groups at that point. But when you think about Mel, everybody likes Mel. Everywhere you go, people cheer for Mel. And we went through his history, it's in the book. I was shocked to learn that in the 1960s he won an AM radio contest as the most popular teacher in New York City. Really? Woo! Most popular guy? Oh, good, nice sweatshirt. I guess they're told if you go all the way down. But what I guess most of you don't think about is this. I have to go to events with Mel, different events. And Mel is one of the kindest, most gentlest human beings you could ever imagine. Look at his appearance, look how he speaks to people. He's humble, he's respectful. He's also one of the main people in charge of billions and billions of dollars. And then go to these events, and there's a lot of people who basically genuflect in front of Mel. And these are all people who tell Mel how wonderful he is. They tell him how honored they are to meet him, and they all want to get their hands on our money. And Mel treats them all with the greatest respect. They all come away feeling great. But I caught Mel doing this once in my first year as president. As he was turning, I saw the look in his eye, and he had the look that most his children in here, I'm not saying it. He just had that, I was like, Mel is a riverboat gambler. He's treating everyone with respect, but he is one really tough guy, and he knows how to make this all work. And that is why we don't worry. Mel is the nicest guy, but at the same time, Mel knows exactly what he's doing at all times. And I'd like now to bring Randy up. I think you have more stories about Mel than I do about. But as you can see, and it's not, we are all the way up to the third tier. You get that, right? And I want to thank all of you who won awards, and you're great, and we honor you. But I think the reason we're at the third tier is because of Mel.
So, this group of people up here, who Mel assembled and said wanted to be up with him. Think about what's happened today. I use the term a lot these days, Generation to generation. And from those who were here, who we honored because of 50 years, to the new teachers who are in this room, to the fact this room is packed. How many people are still waiting for their pension consultation, by the way? Took care of all of you, right? Because of them. Mel Aaronson, I met pretty much, I would say, the first few days that I was at the UFT, brought in by Bill Scott and by Sandy Feldman and Al Shanker. And Sandy said to me, "We have a job for you." And that job was to be these three people's lawyers. Now, it was Phil Swallow at the time with Mel and Sandy. Before that, it was Joe Shannon. Mel became the dean. And as Michael just said, Mel, through thick and thin, we'd already been through the union giving the city the bailout money so that the city didn't go bankrupt, unlike what's happening in Detroit right now. Mel leading Mona and Sandy and all the pension consultants here, but more importantly, the entire union. He made it clear how sacrosanct pensions were, how they were the key, the pillar, so we could go from generation to generation, so that we could take care of our parents and our grandparents and have a future for our new folks. Something that you see in New York in some ways that you don't see other places. Every single time there was some issue about money or pensions or anything else, Mel, Mona, and Sandy, led by Mel, made sure we educated the members on it, made sure we did what we needed to do. And I hate to actually say this, but he has made sure, and you look at the entire nation, the benefits in New York City. We tell our retirees not to say what I'm about to say. The benefits in New York City right now, in terms of retirement security, because the team of our pension systems will assure our members more than pretty much any other middle-class folk in the United States or the world, a decent and dignified retirement.
The power invested in me as the President of the United Federation of Teachers, I bestow the highest membership honor award, the Charles Cogan Award, to Mr. Mel Aaronson.
Thank you so very much from the bottom of my heart. But this is not me. These two gentlemen, George Alkamari and Abe Levine, were here when I came. They let me help at that time. Mona and Sandy, they call us triplets. They call me the thorn between two roses. Without them, I could not have made any contribution. When Randy and Michael were talking, they're stuck. They're stuck. When Michael and Randy were talking about me, I was looking around to see who they were talking about. I know my mother and father were looking down, and my father was saying, "That's very nice." And my mother, she was saying, "I believe them," when they were saying those nice things about my son. I owe a lot to my family. I would not be here. I have, arguably, I know some of you would challenge me, the best family of anybody in the whole world. My loving children, Jody and Miguel and Paul. I have my most wonderful granddaughter who hopefully next September will become a member of the Teachers Retirement System. Eliza, in a couple of years, may even run for teacher member of the retirement board. I have my brother, Steve, and his wife, Rosalie, my niece and nephew, Karen and Evan, all here, and it's just wonderful. I'm missing one person. I wouldn't have this wonderful family if it were not for the support and love I always received from my wife, Evelyn, who passed a few years ago. I also would not be able to do everything I do now if it weren't from the support I get from Sheila Gutter, who looks after me and takes good care of me. I have in my possession something that I'm very proud of, and those of the people who are close can see it's an old, ratty letter dated May 13th, 1963. And in this letter it says, "Dear Mel, on behalf of the UFT and personally, I congratulate you and your wife on the birth of a fine baby boy. With best wishes for the future, sincerely and fraternally, Charlie." Charles Cogan, President of the UFT. I joined the UFT in the spring of 1960. Soon after the UFT formed, I was not part of any of the organizations, the 106 or so that came before the UFT. I especially joined the UFT because of its affiliation with the labor movement. Only one or two of the previous organizations had any affiliation with the labor movement. And it was the greatest thing I ever did. It led me to a lot of interesting and hard work. I'm just going to briefly tell you about the first few years of the UFT's history. We had a great strike in the 1960. And in this room, there are many heroes of that strike. And I don't have all of their names, but George Altamare, Abe Levine, Ray Franklin, Arnie Reifer, and I want to give a special shout out to one that was on strike with us at that time, but is too ill to be here today. I'd like everybody to give a hand to Nick Spilotro, who was here. Now, I know I saw Leo Honig here, and he was on strike, and I don't know everybody, Billy Laberman was on strike. I'd like to ask everybody in this room who was on strike on November 7th, 1960, to please stand up. Strike was settled by what I think was probably the best settlement any strike ever had. It was not a strike for economic conditions. It was a strike for collective bargaining. And we went out on strike. We stayed out one day. And one of the reasons why we did that was they appointed a committee to look into the rights for teachers to have collective bargaining. Now you usually say, uh-oh, a committee is gonna, put things off. But this particular committee was made up of David Dubitsky, Jacob Potofsky, and Harry Van Arsdale. That was the entire committee. For those of you who don't know, they were three of the greatest labor leaders in the nation, and they were put on this committee. They recommended that we get collective bargaining. The Board of Education was still resistant. They said, no. In that strike, there were only about 5,000 out of 45,000 teachers out on strike. How do we know that teachers want collective bargaining? So what they did was, they held a referendum. And in this referendum, teachers were given the right to say, yes, I want collective bargaining, no, I don't want collective bargaining. And you would think it would be a no-brainer. But involved in this fight at that time was the NEA, National Education Association. And they came out and said, teachers, you don't want to be with working people. You don't want to be in trade unions. You want to vote no collective bargaining. Well, the vote was held by about 27,000 to 9,000. Teachers voted for collective bargaining. But then there was the next issue. Who should be the collective bargaining agent? Soon, another election was held. And this time, there were 3 organizations running to be the collective bargaining agent. The UFT, an organization called the TBO, the Teacher Bargaining Organization, led by the NEA, because now that they lost the first referendum, now they wanted to be the agent. And a smaller group that many of our original leaders belonged to, a group called the Teachers Union. And those 3 organizations fought it out. The UFT won overwhelmingly, and we became the collective bargaining agent, first collective bargaining agent for teachers in the country. I had more, but I will quickly go through the fact that in the first few years of our existence, we had 5 strikes. In 1960, in 62, in 67, in 68, and our last one in 75. By that time, almost everybody was in the UFT, and unlike the first strike where we had 5,000 now, we had the schools completely closed. Speaking of completely closed school, on that November 7th date, at 6 o'clock in the morning when I opened the UFT office to begin getting reports on what has happened, the phone rang, 6 o'clock in the morning. Hello, this is the Chicago Tribune. And the Chicago Tribune reporter said, I'd like to know how the strike was going in New York City. 6 o'clock in the morning. I said, I'm proud to say that every single school in New York City is closed. After the era of strikes, UFT changed its philosophy a little, didn't emphasize striking, put more emphasis on the political arena. And in doing that, the UFT did some marvelous things. For instance, in the 1970s, we organized the paraprofessionals. That was a huge move. It not only was it a huge move, it was very controversial. We wouldn't think it's controversial today, but you know, Al Shanker had to threaten to resign as president of the UFT if the members didn't vote to allow the UFT to represent the paraprofessionals. At about that time, under Al and Sandy, his trusted right-hand person at that time, I don't mean Sandy March, I mean Sandy Feldman. They came to the conclusion, why should we lose? We got such great retirement benefits for our members, and then they retire and they're replaced, so we always have, you know, whatever it is, 50 or 60,000 members. Why don't we organize the retirees? And not just make them honorary members, but make them full members with voting rights in the UFT and so forth. And so, in 1979, I got a note. The note was, please come and see me. And there was a big S on it for Sandy. And she said to me, Mel, we want to organize the retirees. We want you to take a leave from the school system and come to work for us organizing retirees. Now, I love the school system. You saw my good guy sweatshirt. I love the kids love me, but I could not resist this turn in my life. And now, the Retired Teachers Chapter of the UFT is the single largest chapter of the UFT, and we have 60 or so thousand members. for that. And I wonder if we could ask everybody in this room who's a retiree to please stand. They build the UFT, but they now are such an integral part of our machinery. And I think Michael calls them our daytime union, the retirees. I became more involved. The great Reuben Mitchell retired. I was asked to run for his position as a trustee of the Teachers Retirement System Board. I became a trustee of the Retirement System Board, and I noticed something immediately. I noticed that while we were having so much trouble and difficulty with the Board of Education, at the Teachers Retirement System, the Teachers Retirement System staff always tried to help UFT members. As a matter of fact, because of that, Teachers Retirement System has been referred to by people at City Hall as UFT South because of their support. And I have a number of people from the Teachers Retirement System that are here today to help me celebrate this honor. And I want to just thank them so much. I don't know if they're here because they wanted me to celebrate the honor, or they're here because I'm the chairman of the retirement board and their boss. I'll take it that they're here because they want to be here. I appreciate it very much. Time goes on. We have these great benefits that we all look forward to enjoying. Our retired members are by far the happiest members that we have. But as Michael mentioned, retirement security in America is under attack. And a lot of it has to do with what I call pension envy. Retired teachers, when they have family discussions and they're with their best friends that they grew up with, are getting negative comments about why should they have a retirement allowance for the rest of their lives, and I have to depend upon what I could have saved in my savings account for my income. Well, we all know that we tell them that I saved that money too. Nobody gave me a gift. I contributed toward the retirement system. Even what the city claims is their funding is really my deferred wages. I didn't get the salary at this time. I was willing to wait for the But we're under attack. It reminds me of this story, and I think I stole this story from John Luke. There were people waiting at a bus stop. And while they were waiting at the bus stop, it began to rain. One person took out an umbrella and stood there with the umbrella. What do you think the attitude of the other people standing in line? Should that attitude be, gee, I wish I had an umbrella? Or I'd like to take that umbrella away from them because I don't have one. That's what's happening in America today to us. People have that attitude. Why should they have it? So smart people like Randy Weingarten and Michael Mulgrew support having retirement security for all. Figure out a way so that everybody would have a pension and everybody would be able to live like retired teachers can live. I want to say we can go a great step toward that. Tuesday, as you heard a number of times, is election day. Go out in New York City, vote for de Blasio and Stringer, and proposal number 1. Michael mentioned all the proposals are in the back of the ballot. Proposal number 1 is the casino gambling proposal, where the money that is made is going to come as education, additional education funds for the public schools of New York State, and we should all support that. And those of you who live outside of New York City, if you didn't hear from NYSA or the UFT about a candidate for you to support where you live, when you go out and vote, at least vote for proposal number 1. It's very, 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 very important that we do that. I'm going to close. I can't say thank you enough to Randy and Michael for what they've done. I remember the day Randy came up to me when she was becoming the president of the United Federation of Teachers and said to me, Mel, I'd like you to replace me as the treasurer of the United Federation of Teachers. And that was a wonderful day for me. Michael nominating me for this award, I had no idea that this would occur. He nominated me. I appreciate it very, very much. I also would like to congratulate all of the winners of all of the awards today. Would you all give them another round of applause? And finally, I want to thank all of you who came out here. Some of you even told me that the main reason you were here was because I was getting this award. In some cases, I blushed. In some cases, I cried because of who the person was. And in all cases, I appreciate the fact that you're here. Thank you so very much.
Mel is not retiring. Are we all good? Mel will continue to be the father of the promised land.
Wow, what a tremendous history lesson that you gave us today, Mel. Thank you very much. So, as we take action on November 5th, let's remember Thursday, November 7th, because that is our history and making sure that we never forget it as we carry on our fight. And so now I'm going to ask George Altamari to come on up. Solidarity Forever. Birds are in back of the program, so join hands.
To the workers' lunchroom, there can be no power greater anywhere beneath the sun.